Welcome to the Tech Byte on using the Mail Merge option in the staff portal for grades. I'm Beth Elliott, and today we're going to be going over how to use the staff portal to produce failure letters. So I'm going to start by going under Manage, and over to the right I'm going to build the data source files. The data source files are how you set it up so that you know what fields are going to go out. You start by selecting the template type. In this case, I'm going to do the current grades, and I can enter the title that I want to work with. In this case, I'm just going to call it current grades because once I use it, when I actually run the letters, that's when I decide what I'm pulling, whether it's failure letter or some other type. So I'm just going to call it current grades. And it brings in the student name, the parent name and address, the marking period that I'm going to be using, the course information, and then at the end it brings in my student ID number and a grade level and year of grad, a couple of things like that. But I might also want to be able to bring in the student first name. So I'm going to scroll down to where I find student. And here with the student first name, because I'd like to make the letter a little bit more personal, I'm going to move that over so it's in my field, and I can go ahead and save the data source. And when I do that, it's going to save it wherever I want, and I happen to have a folder on my local drive. So I'm going to put it in my current grades and just use the same one I already had. Or I can give it a new name. I can come on here and say that it's failure grades, just so I know what it is. And if I want, I can save the settings so I can recall this to use at another time. And to do that, I'm just going to hit Settings, add a new setting, and give it a description. So I'm just going to call it current grades and save that so I can use it the next time I come in and I don't have to set it all up again. But what's nice is once I've set this up once, I can use that same data source multiple times. The second part of doing a mail merge is I need to manage my letter templates. And I do that by clicking on the Manage Letter Templates in the quick links, or I could have gone back under Manage and gone to Manage Letter Templates. What's nice is you have the little quick links right here that get you there quickly. On the left, I have my letter template type, and I'm going to go down and say that it's current grades. And then I can come select the file and browse for it. So I can come in and say, oh, I want my failure letter. And this is a mail merge letter that I have started elsewhere. And I can go ahead and upload that file. Now, if I needed to work with it again, I could come over here and say, oh, I want to go to my current grades. I'm going to select the letters that it has, and I can download the file and specify where I want to save it so I can work with it again. It's really handy to be able to do that. I also want to update a label file that goes with these letters. So I have a failure label or a current grades label that I want to work with. And what that's going to do is based on that text file that I have for my data source, it's going to allow me to create the mail merge labels that go with my letters if I have not set up my letter to go into a window envelope. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that file and work with it. And if I needed to, I could select the label that I wanted to, or I could do it up here and select whatever one. Like here, I have a different version of the letter. Actually, it's on the update when I'm doing it. But if I come back and select the letter, I can come in and say, oh, I don't want to work with that anymore. And what I'd like to do is I can remove it. So it gives me that option. But once my labels and my letter are uploaded, I can go and do the print, send letters and labels. In here, this is going to give me the ability to set it up so I can actually print my letters at this point. So it's really handy because whenever I run, this can be second quarter, it can be third quarter. At this point, I'm actually building the data that's going to be in the letter. So I can do a student range if I want. The order of the filter is the order they're going to print in. I can come down and say which letter do I want to do. So I'm going to do a current grades template, and I'm going to select my failure letter, and then I'm going to go over and select the criteria. The criteria for a current grades letter is basically a grades cross-reference report. So I'm going to indicate the grade that I want to work with. In this case, it's quarter 2. I can select the grade plans that works with. Now I can either select them all or I can uncheck all and only check the plans where quarter 2 is a grade in that plan. So I'm going to select my semester 1, my quarter 2, and my year plans, and I'm going to build the list. So here are the courses it's going to use for this list. And then below that, I select what grades I want to report on. So I'm going to scroll down and find 64, which is the first of my failure grades. And then I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, hold my Shift key down, and select the last grade. And then move those to the right. So these are my selected grades of 64 to 0. Those are the grades that I'm reporting. Below that, I'm specifying limit the letters to students with more than or equal to this many occurrences. In this case, I'm saying 1 or more occurrences. Those are who I want to work with, and I want to know which grade point value group to use, and I'm just going to use the first one. You might have a specific grade point value group that you're using, and that really comes in handy when you're using the alternate grade to say which you're using as a limitation, or the fact that you want the alternate grade to be in the report rather than the numeric grade. So I'm going to click OK here, and that finishes my criteria. And the rest of what I'm setting up has to do with the actual letter. The date range applies if I'm doing attendance or maybe discipline. I can select my label template at this point. So I'm going to do my current grades label. And then below that, I can say which recipient of which contact do I want to use. Do I want to use the parent guardian, which is my first contact, or do I potentially want to use my mailing flag so that I send letters not only to my primary parent, but also to any non-custodial parent. To the right of that, I can have the option to limit the letter to 1 per family. But because this is a failure letter, I don't want to do that because I might have more than 1 student in the same family who is failing. You do have the option to do email settings. And what this says is that instead of just doing a paper copy of the letters, I can opt to do students and contacts that are eligible to be emailed. And I can also opt to select all my students once I do the send report to email, and I can select all students, and I want to email where applicable, but paper otherwise. So if I have an email address, I'm going to email this report. If I don't have an email address, I'm going to hit a paper copy. I do have the option to print a paper copy as well for my email recipients. I'm going to leave that off for right now. Below that, I would enter the email address of where the email is coming from. So this would be probably the guidance counselor, the principal, or somebody like that. You can put in the subject for the email. So it could be failure notification or something else. And then a message saying attached is the listing of which courses the student is failing. So it makes a nice, easy way for you to send that out. You can also enable an email log, which lets you which email address it was sent to, or if it was a paper copy. And then you say which file name you'd like to work with that. I'm going to turn that off for right now, and I'm going to close. And then you can, of course, look at the email logs when it's done. Below that is the ability to add tracking information. You want to put in a tracking number, and this is a number, not a character field, so I might do a 2 for my grading, and I can track letters being printed or emailed. You can limit the mailing to letters not yet printed, so that if I've done some of my students, maybe I sent my seniors out ahead of time here at the high school, and I'm doing everyone else later. So then I can say, well, go ahead and skip the seniors, I've already done them, and I'm going to do everybody else. The clear previously tracked letters could be that I'm starting over. That's probably more applicable when I'm in doing attendance. Below that, I can add a title to this tracked information. So I'm going to put 2Q failure. And I can do settings so that I don't have to set this up each time. And I actually already have one, so I could go ahead and save the setting. And it lets me know right up here that it saved it. When I'm doing save settings, it gives me the ability to give it a label. The creator is whoever I am logged into the portal as. If the setting is locked, then only the creator can save settings on top of that. Anyone can recall it, but only the creator can save on top if it's locked. And then if I need to, I can go ahead and delete a setting. And then I'm going to go ahead and generate the letters. So it's going to work through and come up with my letters and my address labels all in one shot, which is really nice to be able to do. So it's producing 157 letters, and it's showing me here for each student how it's working, and it gives me that option. So I'm seeing that for Sarah Alampi here, that she is failing her principles of democracy. And as I scroll down, I can see the other letters as I come in, and it's really handy to be able to come in and see that. And if a student is missing more than one course, then I'm going to be able to see that also. And the information I'm bringing in is I brought in the parent name from my data source, I brought in the student's name, I brought in which marking period I was printing this for, and I brought in the course, the grade, and the teacher. So it gives me that capability to come in and see what's going on. If I go to the label, I'm going to be able to see the labels that were being produced, and that I need 6 pages worth of labels for the students that are failing their courses. So it very nicely shows me that information. And I can go ahead and close at this point. And that's what's used as doing the mail merge in grade reporting for the staff portal. Remember that you can also go to our webpage, to the mmscri-mms.com, and you can look at your knowledge base articles. I can go into knowledge base, and I don't have to log in. I don't have to put my account information in. I can just come in here and say type mail merge and search. And it's going to bring up all of the articles that are in here that mail merge has been set as one of my keywords. So it really is a nice handy feature to have. Thank you very much for participating in this Tech Bite, and I hope you found it helpful.